cancer and mental health really is a global issue. I think the way that this shows up is probably different depending on where we're talking about in the world, but there are some things that probably aren't so different. Often, patients don't have the words to express what they're experiencing. So they may not know the word depression or anxiety, but they know how they feel, and they know that it doesn't feel normal compared to how they may have felt before, let's say. And so as practitioners, we really have to do a proper assessment so that we can understand what people are experiencing, sometimes educate them about what they're experiencing, normalize that because people don't even know that they're not alone in the things that they're feeling. And maybe through that, we can educate them that not only is there a word for what you're experiencing, but we can get you help. There are resources for it. And I would imagine that that's probably a global issue, that some people might know the terms for these things, but other people probably don't. The other thing that I would say is that I'm imagining shame must be a global feeling, right? Whenever people are experiencing these things, but then they see what happens when someone is kind of public. It's not always received well. It's not always welcome in certain communities to feel this thing that we call depression or anxiety. So how do we normalize that in communities where it might not be so accepted to have an actual diagnosis like anxiety or depression?
How about diversity? Because it's another layer.
Oh my goodness, it's an absolute other layer. I can speak to the issues here. We find this issue is actually not one that's just here. We know that people of color, people in different communities, like our LGBT communities, people who are poor, that they experience cancer differently. They're disproportionately impacted by cancer. The outcomes are different. The mortality is higher. So that's already complex. And one of the things that we know is that the healthcare system hasn't always done a great job earning the trust of people in these communities. And so medical mistrust can be very high. Are they getting the information they should? Is someone offering them the most advanced treatment? Is someone offering them a clinical trial? There's a lot of research that shows that the folks I'm talking about now don't often get a physician who talks to them about clinical trials. So how can they even trust the information that they're receiving? And, you know, when you're in these communities, you don't always want to be open and transparent about what you're experiencing medically or otherwise. So you can feel very alone. That's very alienating, actually. So it does add another layer, especially if someone were to go online and Google statistics about, you know, people with X cancer diagnosis and mortality rates. What you're going to read is pretty grim. It doesn't mean that there's not opportunity. It doesn't mean that people aren't living longer with cancer, but that can be overwhelming and scary at the same time.